We are about to start, so I'm happy to see some familiar faces here. Uh, and Yeah, after like a couple of months, right? I couldn't organize a lot of events this time, but my idea is to bring more content to this group, and also if you wanna join me to organize the events, we need more volunteers, okay? Because I'm doing everything by myself. But if you can join us, will be great. There's a lot of benefits of being part of Friends of Figma. You will enjoy a really good community. So there's a lot of people around the world that you're gonna meet if you're part of this community. So if you wanna join me to organize the next events, feel free to reach me out, send me a message, and we can definitely talk about that. Okay. But also, if you want to contribute with content, if you want to be a speaker on our next event as well, I think there's a other way that you can contribute. Okay, cool. So, um, how many of you guys went to the config this year in San Francisco? Not a lot of people, because I couldn't meet a lot of people from Atlanta. So will be great actually if on the next year we can go a big group of people from here, right? Okay, Gary, you had to do virtual this year. It's fine. You know that I had a lot of Brazilian folks, right? From the event was super great to meet them. And last month I went to Brazil, so I did two talks for the Brazilian communities in Rio and São Paulo as well. So it was super good to share a little bit of my knowledge and meet people, right? And some of them they were on config this year also. Okay, so yeah, will be great. Okay, Jack. That's good. Good. So next time we have to create a group. I don't know, a WhatsApp group, whatever it is, so we can have everybody and we can just meet there, right? Okay, cool. So I think everybody is very familiar with textiles, right? On Figma already, right? You already use that in different projects, right? But I think since Figma launched variables, right? A lot of things changed. So today I want to present a way that I created, like a new way to organize typography. I will build that live for you guys. So if you want to follow along and try to do on your side, feel free to do that. If you need any a pause to just catch up, also let me know. Just feel free to text me here on the chat, and I will be happy to walk through. Okay, in all this process, and there's a logic behind that to make everything also responsive, right? I think this is the thing that using textile, a lot of people that I saw different projects, and even me I included on that. We create different textiles for different sizes for desktop, tablet, or mobile. So this is very hard to manage and organize. And once you have to edit those things, you guys know, right? It takes a lot of time to do all that, right? So I think there's more people connecting. That's good. So let me introduce myself again. So I'm Juno. I'm the only one organizing events in Atlanta for Friends of Figma. So as I mentioned in the beginning, if you want to join me to organize the events, it's really cool. Also, Figma provides us tickets to go to the config. So this is a really good perk of being part of this community as well. But also, you're gonna meet a lot of different people. So during config was super great because we could hang out with a lot of friends of Figma from different parts of the world, and we have dinners. We have like a different things to do together. It was super good. So if you want to join, let me know. I will be happy to have more people to organize that, right? So I have friends that they organize the Figma Friends of Figma in Miami, and they're pretty big now in Miami. So I think we have to start organized to have like a big crew from Atlanta next year. Okay, good. So let's jump now to Figma, right? It's very weird in this way because I think a lot of people are waiting for the new interface. On my job, because I don't know, maybe because they pay the enterprise solution, they already have the new one, the new interface, which is great. There's a couple of things that change it. I don't know if everybody here is already using the new interface, but there's a couple of things that they move it around a little bit, but they look very, very interesting. I think they optimize it a lot. Okay, good. Perfect. So I'm just reading all the messages here. Okay, so if you guys wanna, I will leave my email later on, so it's like you guys can reach me out uh, by email, so we can just organize to talk about Friends of Figma. Okay, good. So let's start. I want to go, and of course, everybody already know how to create a text style here, right? Because this is the way that usually you go here, right? I will just make a simple example just to remind ourselves. So if this is a heading one, right? I will just make it like this a little bit larger. So maybe like a 64, okay? So this is gonna be my heading one, and I think the simple stuff that everybody, right, like is more familiar, is just coming here, right, and creating a heading one, and this is gonna be saved here on your text styles, right? One second. Okay, so this is, as you know, is a pretty simple way to make everything that we are doing, right, like a reusable, right? Like, so if you have like a bunch of like a random texts, right, like that is going to be different size or different whatever it is, you are going to just link that to the heading, and everything is going to be linked back to the same style, right? I think if you already use a little bit of Figma and you're already familiar with that, you know that this is a really good way to organize things. Okay, so since they launched the local variables, uh, and you click here, right? There's many different things that you can use here to make this more scalable, right, on your project, right? And I want to show my process because I was of course, since they launched that, I was trying to research and understand the best ways to implement that, right? Because there's, I would say, many different ways that you can implement this. And I think to me, for now, is the most optimal way to do things. Okay, so the first collection here, if you want to do and build on your side as well, feel free. I will rename this collection. Okay, that is collection one by default. So this one I want to call typography settings, right? But to make these typography settings a hidden collection, you can use an underscore or a dot. I use a dot usually. So once you have the dot, means that once we export that, people are not going to be able to see that specific collection, right? So that's the idea. We don't want to make like a people accessing all those collections that we have here. Okay. So if you have questions, by the way, just shoot the questions on the chat. I will try to answer as much as I can through the process that I'm building everything. So feel free to ask your questions. Okay. So if you have that and you create it on your side, I'm gonna use a very similar structure as a CSS, like a settings, because this is gonna help us to maintain everything a little bit more organized to us. Okay, so to start, what I'm gonna do, I will create a new variable here, and we have like a four different types. Okay, we are gonna pretty much focus on numbers and strings today, and I will start using a string. Okay, so to do that, the first one I will just name title. Okay, so if you want to have the same one, you can just add a title, and another one, another string, I will call body. Okay, this is a really simple way that I try to organize, especially when you pair fonts, right? Like let's say I have one font that is gonna be for my titles and another font that I want to use, for my body text. And they're going to be totally different, right? So here is really important that the name that you want to use is exactly the same name that you want to use here, right? So let's say that, let me just detach, it's inter, you have to have exactly the name inter, right? So if you want to use, I like this playfair display. If you want to use playfair display, the name should be exactly like that. Okay, so if you want to do this, I will just copy that, right? Because it's going to be way easier. So you can just like put it here, the name, and we could use another one for the titles, right? So if you have any suggestion, just shoot your suggestion on the chat. Or maybe what we can do, let's do the opposite. I think we can use Roboto. That is really simple, right? So I can use this one to be the titles, and I can use Roboto to be the body text. Okay? So we have these two settings that is living here, but we want to group them, right? Because we are going to create a lot of different settings. And for now, because it's just the settings, I don't have any other like different modes here. I just have one single column because this is pretty much saving all the information that I want to reuse later on my typography system. Okay. So the title in this case, I want to add font in the beginning, backslash family, backslash title, right? So if you see, now they created a folder that is font, family, and title, right? So if I want to see the body is outside, but if you just drag, they are going to be font, family, and title and body. Okay, so this is pretty much the same CSS structure that I want to create because make it easier also to talk with the developers later on. Okay, so inside font, I want to create another collection that is going to be, so I will create a new variable, and this is going to be numbers, right? So I want to use sizes, right? So this is going to be a size that I want to use, and it's going to start from 10. Okay, this could be um, smaller depending, but I think for readability, usually 10, 11, right? Like only if it's legal text and you want to hide that, maybe you can use like a 9, but 10 is already a good number. So to make this as a folder, as I mentioned here earlier, we can just use a backslash, but I will use the same value that is 10. I want to have like a 10 and 10. 10 is the name of this variable, and 10 is the value that is a number that I want to reuse later on. Okay. This is a good way to keep things a little bit more organized. Okay. So from that, let's say I want to create other numbers. So I will just create 12, 12. I just prefer to have like a the largest one on top, like because is the way that I see headings, like the hero text, the structure visually. So usually I organize on that way. But of course, feel free to organize on the way that feels better for you. Okay. So you use 14, 14. Okay. So if you want to use the same, after that is going to be 16, 16. You don't need to have all of that, of course. I'm just using a couple of them to have an example. Now it's going to be 20, 20. Uh, but also, this is important if you want to make like a responsive and you want to have more flexibility on that. Maybe you want to have like you're going to add more sizes. Okay. Let me add 24, 24 now. I want to add another one that is going to be 28, 28. Okay. Another size that is going to be 32, 32. Top. Here, let me see. Maybe we can just jump to 36, 36. And there's a reason behind that. Okay. I'm just, this is pretty manual in the beginning, but like later on, you're going to understand that this is going to save us a lot of work later. And that's the thing, you're not going to repeat that anymore because you want to make sure that later on, right, like you already have the sizes and you just follow the same consistency for the sizes, right? If you need to change, you just have one place that you can go and edit, remove, or add another value if you want. Okay. So 56, 56, I will just keep adding because I will need some of them that they're going to be pretty big for us because I want to have some for the some of them to use on headings, right? So this is 60, 60. Okay. What else we have? 64, 64. And the other one that is going to be 72, 72 is, I'm just almost done on this. Okay. I know that is, I supposed to maybe organize this maybe, but I like to show you guys step by step. Okay. Because I think it's useful for you once you are trying to build in your project, right? And you want to make this like a, you know, very clear how to get to this point. Okay. Any questions so far here? Everybody good? Okay. All right. So let's go to the next attribute that I want to use. Okay. And so the other attribute will depend on which, let me change for Roboto, that is this one. Okay. It's which different weights that we want to use, right? So as you can see for Roboto, we have pretty much all the different weights, but we're not going to use all of them, okay? Because it's going to be just too much, right? For now. So we can just use a couple of them, and here a couple of them that is like a italic that we can use, okay? I don't want to build all of them because it's going to take us like forever also to build all of them. But I think I will build, yeah, three different weights. I think will be good. Okay, so let's go to the font. So now we have all the sizes here and the family here. So I will just put the family on the top, size, and now we have to add the weight. So the weight here you can use as a text, or if you prefer, you can use as a number as well, right? Because every font they have like a 400, 600, right? Like a 700, whatever, like a is the number you need to see on the font, right? Like a, because they have like a whole design of the font defined what are like the grid, right? The scale they're using for them. So that's the thing, because sometimes what is like a semi bold for one font could be 600 or whatever, but for the other font is not 600, it's 700, right? So it's like a, so for those reasons I prefer to use the text as a value, because this makes sure that if we are using, this is going to be regular, this is going to be semi bold, this is going to be extra bold, right? This is going to be black. So you already know exactly the one that you want to use. So that's the thing. This will change the option here, because if you want to use numbers 600, 700, 800, or 400, right, I will recommend you to use numbers. But in this case, I will use that as a string, because I want to use the name. Okay, so here I will call weight, right? I will use a backslash regular. Okay, this is the pretty much the first one that we want to add, and of course the value will be regular, right? Maybe you're gonna are thinking why those are like the same, because you're gonna understand later on, because we need to link the information. So you could use like a small, medium, whatever, like a t-shirt sizes that people use. But the problem is like the scale that we need for font size is way large than t-shirt sizes, right? And sometimes it's not very clear also, if you use like a medium, what is medium size, right? Like it could be like a, I don't know, 32 or 40, right? So it's not very clear for people. So the weight we're using as a string. So I have the regular. I want to use another one that is going to be italic. Okay. So if you want to just use italic in italic, the other one is going to be bold, right? Because pretty much we use bold a lot as well. And we can use the bold italic, and bold italic. Okay. And let me see which one they have. Extra bold. Okay, let's use extra bold. So I use like the string that is extra bold. So it's really important that you type exactly the way that it is here, because otherwise you're not going to be able to link that. So if you want to have extra bold italic, you have to type correctly also extra bold italic, right? So so now I have all these different weights just right here. Okay, cool. Everybody good? If someone is trying to build on your side, just let me know. Okay, I can just wait a little bit if you need. Okay, so we have two other properties that we can use also, and I just want to add here. And those properties, by the way, are some of the properties that it's a little bit tricky, because here, as you can see, we can use percentages, right? And also here, right? If you want to use like a 15%, right? You could use as a, I think here, right? Like 15%, right? Or you can use a fixed number that is like the way that you could potentially use, right? So those things are a little bit tricky, because depending on what exactly is the value that you want to use. I will just give you an example. You see that is a fixed size, is not a percentage size that is using, right? So if I unlink that, you see that is using pixel, right? And this is like using uh, fixed size as well. Give me 1 second, please. Okay, Google was listening to our event, so that's why. So it was starting playing random music. Okay, good. So that's the problem of those percentages, right? Like, because here also, if I want to use like a fixed size, I can use a fixed line height, right? So all this information, if you want to have on your side, we can use all of them. Okay, I will just build a couple of them so we can just like use them as a structure for us. So this one is the line height. Okay, so if you want to come here, you can create. So in this case, we are going to use numbers, right? So you can use line height, and we could use. Let's see. Uh, we could use the same amount of numbers that we have here for the size. Okay, and there's a reason for that, because if I use 64, maybe I want to use 64, or maybe I want to use 72, right? So this is going to give me a little bit more space here, right? Like a in between. Or if I want to use 96, you see like the line height is going to be a little bit bigger, right? So to make this easier, right, because we have here line height, and I want to use the numbers, right? Like I want to add 10, and this is going to be 10, right? I will be a little bit lazy to build all that, right? We don't want to build everything one by one. So I can delete this group and I can just pretty much duplicate this group, right? So I just duplicate the same scale for now. I'm just making easier for us because, of course, depending on the project, maybe you want to edit the line heights that you want to enable for people, right? But for now, I'm just like using the same amount of numbers that we want. Or if you want to make it easier, also you can just use auto, right? So if you use auto, means that it doesn't change anything from your side. Okay. So the one thing that is not very I don't know if they updated. I'm just saying that because I was trying before and it never worked really well. Is that if you want to use as a percentage, right? So if you want to use 100%, 120%, you can use manually here. But if you want to use here, let me just add another one. There is 120%. You cannot add 120% here, right? Because it's a number. So in order to do this, you maybe can add a string, right? So I think you have to use like a text, and you could add 120% as a string. But even though when you add that, right, it goes to 100% pixel fixed. So they ignore the percentage. So that's, I'm not sure if it's a bug or something that they are going to build later on. But for now, it's not possible to use percentages that we can use here on the variables. Okay. So I think this is the downside of that. Okay. So for now, we are going to use like a fixed sizes for our line height. Okay. And the same goes to the letter spacing, right? So the letter spacing, probably we don't need a lot of them, right? Because the letter spacing is like a 72 is too much, right? Like usually it's going to be like a 2 or like a 0, right, by default. Or you want to use like I don't know, like a, let me see, 24. Maybe like you have like a text, right? Like you want to have like something different. Maybe you're going to use something like that. So usually you don't have a lot of like letter spacing sizes. So in this case, I will build manually some of those numbers. Okay. So it's going to be letter spacing, and this is going to be 0, right? Because probably this is going to be the default size that we want to use, right? Like by default is 0. That's what comes with the font, right? And if you want to use like maybe 16 and also 24, right? Like let me use like a 24. We can just use having this scale. Okay, so we have that, and we have the line spacing. Okay, so here is the paragraph spacing, right? Like a that is pretty useful also to use that, right? Because maybe you want to use like the same size for the paragraph. I don't know how many of you guys use that, but I really like when people set up that properly, right? Because every time that I press enter, right? If you see here, this is a text, right? Boom, boom, boom. Let me just make this, fix it here, right? And I wanna just have another paragraph and I press enter, you have like a correct space for the paragraph, right? So this could be the same size, 64, or could be larger, whatever you want, right? Like, but you can manage that space, right? So if I reduce a little bit this, now you see a little bit clear that every time that I typing, but I press enter, the paragraph spacing will be correct, right? So the paragraph spacing follows almost the same scale. So you can have like a larger sizes or the same size. Let's say 64, right? Like it's going to be okay. But sometimes you want to increase the readability to the user. So you increase a little bit more. So this is one of the tricks that I like to use when I'm editing the text, right? Like for people. Okay. So to do that, we can reuse the size collection here, and I just want to duplicate this group, and we're gonna use the same name that is like a here, no, here, sorry, paragraph spacing. Okay, paragraph spacing, boom, right? So we have the same scale for all that. Okay, so this is pretty much the basic setup that I like to use. Okay, here's like a for to applying content to the text, but it doesn't come to like the settings that we are like doing right now. Okay, but pretty much this is what we need for now. Any questions so far from this setup? No. Okay. So if you have questions, please let me know. Okay, it will be great to answer all the questions that you have for now. Okay, good. So let me just save some information here. And so now we are going to create a new collection, right? That I mentioned to you guys. We have the typography settings, but now we're going to create a new collection, okay? And this collection, this is going to be our typography, actually, okay? This is going to be our system for the typography, okay? So there's another detail, but I jump it a little bit fast on that because whenever you're like building the variables, you have like here the settings, right? So you have like a description, more details, but also you can define how you want to use that information, right? So you can show in all the properties, you can use as text content or font weight or style or font family. In this case, it's only for the font family, right? And also this is also the same, is only for the font family that you want to show, right? So it means that whenever we are selecting here, right, like the variables, this is going to show on the font family. So the other ones we can disable as well here. Just let me just go here. For example, if we have this size, you see like you can use that for a lot of things, but actually this I want to use for font size only, right? So the only thing that I don't like on this is because there's no way to edit all of them in the same time, right? Like I think if you do that, I don't know, I can try because the last time that I tried to do that, they didn't edit on this way. Let me see if I can do this now is because they fix it or they updated that. Yeah, you see now? Okay, good. So we can select all of them because they changed it here, the interface, because before was everything in one place. Now they changed the interface, which is great. So the font weight, right? If you think about it as well, it's a like a something that you don't want to use as a font family or a text, but you want to use as a font weight or style, right? So it's only gonna show for those things. Line height, right? So let me just select all the values that we have. Why it doesn't select all of them? Okay, yeah, perfect. So this is for the line height. You see a line height here. So if I wanna remove everything and just enable the line height, it's going to be easier for us to find the value that we want. Same goes for the letter spacing, right? So letter spacing, I will just remove and just add for the letter spacing. And paragraph spacing, oops, here, the same thing. We can just like remove everything, and we have the paragraph spacing right there. Okay, you see, you have like this, but I think uh, in this case, I'm not gonna apply for that, but you could use the indent also on your system. Okay, good. So now look like everything is organized. Okay, because whenever you need now to select a variable here, right? Like, oops, you're gonna go. No, it's the font family. Sorry, yeah. And you wanna select. You see, you just have like a two different options: the title or the body, right? And pretty much is that. And this is gonna be linked to that value. Okay. So I'm just like removing that for now. Okay. And we're gonna edit this information in a little bit. Okay. Cool. So let's go back to the typography settings, because now we're gonna start organizing a couple of things here. Okay. Good. Any questions so far? I know that sounds sometimes very confusing or complex because it's not the way that we used to do things before the variables, but now that we have variables, there's a lot of new stuff that we can implement, and that's why this is so important for us. Okay. All right. So let's go. Uh, on the typography collection, my idea here is to uh, start building all the different sizes that we want to use, right? Like the display size, heading size, body size, and everything else, right? So there's many different sizes that we want to implement, right? I will try to speed up because this event is supposed to be 1 hour to present everything, but I think it's going to be a little bit, like impossible to present all the details that I want for you guys, but I want to just at least give you the whole overview. Um, but if you have to leave, it's all good. But if you can stay a little bit with me, I will show you all the details that I can. Okay. So now on the typography, we're gonna do something. We are gonna create a new uh, string, and this string is gonna call font family. Okay. But the font family, this is going to be for my hero, right? Like, remember that I created for the heading one. I want to create for different sizes, but we can start from the heading because it's going to be easier. So I want to add headings folder, and this is like a font family for the heading one. Okay, so now we can have all this uh, information here. So could be heading only, heading one. And this is the font family for this one. So this font family, because it's a heading, is a title, I want to just use title, you see? So now this is linked to the play fair display, right? Because I selected this one. So you cannot read which one is that, but it doesn't matter because now this is a token that we created, and this is linked to that value here, right? So if I change this Playfair display for another font that I want, I just need to come here, and all the headings that I want to set up, they're going to be linked to that. Okay, cool. I want to add a font size, right? So for the font size, we can use a number. So it's going to be font size, and this, depending on what exactly I'm building, maybe this could be like a 72, right? And you can have like this as a heading one. Okay. After that, also let me see the sequence, right? Like is size, font weight, line height, letter spacing. Okay, good. So the font weight. So we are going to use a string that is going to be the font weight. So this is going to define if I want to use regular, bold, whatever it is, right? Like, so maybe for the headings, maybe I want to use a bold, right? So this is going to show me that the weight for the heading one should be a bold, okay? If you want to make an extra bold, whatever, like you can just change that here, okay? So the next one is, I think, paragraph, no, line height, right? Okay, so line height. So for the line height, we can use a number, right? So it's going to be line height, like that. And we can just link that. Here's the font size, and the line height is here. So if 72, maybe I want to use the same size. Okay, for that. The next one will be letter spacing. So for the letter spacing, it's going to be a number, letter spacing. Okay, and this is going to be letter spacing, could be 0, right? Most of them is going to be 0 usually, but depending on what exactly you're doing. But let's do 16 for the titles, right? Like for the headings. And we have the last one that is going to be the paragraph spacing, right? The paragraph spacing, we have a lot of like a different numbers. So we can just use paragraph, oops, spacing. And this is going to be linked to paragraph spacing that is pretty much here, right? So the paragraph spacing, we can use the same number, right? Because as I mentioned to you guys here, at least if the press enter is going to be the same. But sometimes in headings, sometimes like I saw a lot of people that they don't want to use space because depending on how the data comes from the database and there's a HTML with like a enter, the title will have an enter, right? So sometimes what I noticed that people prefer to reduce that gap, right? Or even like a reduce as to 0, just to make sure that if it's a heading, you don't have like this issue, okay? So we don't have 0, but maybe for the paragraph spacing will be a great idea to have a 0 size. So we can just add a number that is going to be 0, 0. So for the headings, maybe the paragraph spacing is going to be 0 for us, okay? Because in this case, even if I press enter, it's going to look like that is the just another line, okay? It's not a full paragraph, okay? So this happen often. So like on the CSS, they need to fix those things sometimes to make sure that everything's going to look correct, okay? Good. So once we have all that, it's a lot of work, right? I think you guys are thinking, oh, Juno, this is a lot of work just to set up the typography. Yes, I know. And there's a big reason for that, okay? And you're going to appreciate this later on, okay? So let's say that now we have the heading one that we already created in the beginning, right? So if I go here and I go to the settings, you're going to notice that actually we could link all these values that we have here to the variables, right? Because that's the crazy thing about using variables and using only text styles. You could use only text styles, or you could use the variables, linking them directly here to the variable that you want, right? So let me just close here. So I want to use that for Playfair, right there, or no, uh, I think I select the wrong one. Playfair display. You see, it's gonna change uh, correctly for us. But the only downsides of using all that, right? Like, so if I want to use extra bold, is because you want to reuse that information, right? And the only way to reuse that information is creating a text style. So it's like a little bit redundant the way that they build Figma, I think, because you have a controller and you have the text style that is going to be linked to that controller, right? This is the way that actually they did also for colors, right? Like especially gradient colors. So sometimes it's a little bit confusing because you have these two different layers until you get to the text that you want to use on your project. Okay, so for that, I will just come here, right? And I will edit this one. So this, we already know that if you come here, right, we have the heading. So this is going to be the font family. So this is linked to the font family. So this is the font weight. So if you go to the variable here, so you have font weight, but if you go to the heading one, font weight, right? You want to link here. You don't want to link here because you want to make sure that you have one single place here. So why I do that, right? Because if you want to change the settings, you just have one single place that you change all the settings, but here is going to be linked correctly to the heading one. So if you want to change later on the heading one, you just go to one place and you have the control to change only that specific part, right? So it's better to have two different layers for that. So this is going to be the font weight that is bold. This is going to be the size that I want to use. So I want to use the font size for here, right? 72. And this is line height. The line height, as we mentioned, is going to be 72. Here, you see here you could use percentage, but because we are not using percentage, letter spacing 16, right? You see that is already making a little bit more spacing between that. And here is the paragraph, right? So the paragraph spacing also is going to be 0 because, as I mentioned, if I want to type an enter, this is going to not affect the thing that we created, right? So everything is connected to that collection right here. Okay, cool. So I want to build um, two more headings. It's going to be fast and a body because I want to show you guys something. So I want to just duplicate. Now it's going to be faster, right? Because you can just use the duplicate group. And here, if you want to use headings, it's fine. But now I want to make these 64, right? This is going to be 64 as well. And that's maybe the headings is going to be 16. We can just keep like that. Duplicate for the heading tree, and I want to just make this smaller, 56, okay, just to have something different. So if we want to check that, right, because this is the heading one, right? I want to duplicate that. I will just detach. I want to make this as a heading 2, right, and a heading 3. Okay, so you could go to the path of a linking individually, that it's fine, right? Because we can just go here, and now I want to select the heading 2 here, as you can see, and here as well I want to select the heading 3. Now That's the tricky part. Font weight. I want to use heading 2. Is sometimes like a lot of like a attributes, so it's really important that you can see the group that you want to link, because you want to have control later, right? Like to change all that, right? So now, oops, I think I selected the wrong one. This is supposed to be the font weight, right? Oh, okay. See? And now let's see the sizes, right? Because now it's using 72 because it's heading 1, but heading 2 is supposed to be smaller, and heading 3 to be a little bit smaller as well, 56, you see? So it's using all the attributes that it's coming here. So the good thing is, because if someone comes to you, hey, this is supposed to be, let's see, the heading 1 supposed to be 96, right? You just come here and this is already changing for you, right? Or if you want to change for 72 or 120, right? Is everything linked? So whenever you want to change, you just come to this specific table to control everything. You don't need to go to your text styles anymore, because they're going to be all linked correctly, right? So we linked that. Let me just confirm font line height for 2, letter spacing for 2, right? And this one is the paragraph spacing for 2. And this for heading 3, I will just go a little bit faster just to make sure that we can go over everything that I want to talk to you guys. Line height, this letter spacing, we go here, and this is the paragraph spacing that goes here for the heading 3. Oh, no, paragraph spacing. This is line height 3 and line letter spacing 3. Okay, good. Yeah, just to make sure that I'm not making any mistake. Okay, so this one, if I want to save that, you can just save that as a heading 2 now, right? So we have everything on our text styles, and here we can have heading backslash heading 3, right? So we have the same structure as a folder here, right here. So we can just drag, so we maintain everything organized, right? The same way that we have under the collections. Okay, good. Yeah, exactly, Gary. It's like a pretty much like a the same idea of components, right? Like, but you're using those same attributes for the text styles, right? So that's the same idea behind that. Okay, so once you have that, I will just duplicate the heading 3. So instead of calling heading 4, what I want to do is like this is going to be my body, and body medium, right? You can just call like that, or paragraph graph medium. So because it's in the same folder, right? I just want to make sure that I have a heading folder and a body folder. So they are two different things. I want to just add at least a one paragraph, because I want to jump on the responsive part of having that. And now you're going to understand the power of having all these organized, because this will make a huge difference on your project later on. Okay, so let's go to the paragraph medium. So this is going to be body text, right? So let me just uh, start preparing here, right? Paragraph. And we're going to start like a linking that. So the paragraph medium is Roboto, as you can see. The font size we can use as a 20, okay? So if I want to use this paragraph size, it's going to be 20. Font weight, regular, right? So the font weight here, oops, no, font weight here is going to be regular, right? Line height we can use as 20, right? So line height is going to be 20. Letter spacing 0, right? We don't want to have all that. So letter spacing is 0, right? For the paragraph medium, as you can see here. And uh, paragraph spacing, this will be great to have like a 20 or even a little bit more, 24, right? Because whenever, let me just link that paragraph spacing, right? Because whenever I have a paragraph, now we have like a this automatic space for us, right? For each paragraph that we are creating, right? So if I press enter, we already have that space, okay? So this is going to be my paragraph medium. I can just go here and create a text style. Could be body, paragraph, medium, okay? And this is going to be saved also right here, okay? Cool, perfect. So we have all that organized. But now comes the magic actually from the different modes that we have here, because we can create the modes to create the responsive sizes that we need. Okay, so let's say that here we want to have this a desktop size. Okay, and we want to create another that is going to be the tablet size, right? And we want to create another one that is the mobile size, right? So you know that these will vary from one to another, right? Like because those sizes they're gonna change based on what we need, right? But sometimes we want to keep the same size, right? Because even if we change from one to another, maybe those things are gonna be this pretty much the same. So to do that, I will create three different sizes. Let me just create like this. It's gonna be our desktop. Okay, so let me just make a little bit rounded, a little bit darker, like here, just for the sample, right? So this is our desktop. This is gonna be our tablet, right? Like for tablet, they have iPad Pro. Let me see. Let's use iPad Pro Mini, right? So could be like this. This is gonna be our tablet size, right? And I wanna create another one that is gonna be our mobile size, right? So for mobile, I wanna use this one, the 375, 812. Okay, so this is like all the different size that we have. Okay, and we're gonna use all of them here, right? Like we can use them just to compare how they're gonna look like, right? So we have this, we have a paragraph, right? So what we can use to help us, right? Like, whoops, I don't have the AI, so we can just Lauren whatever, Lauren Lorenzer. Look at this, looks interesting. I never used this one. Let's see. Amount of words amount is gonna be, I don't know, like a 200. Okay, words. Okay, perfect. So they created this for us. This is gonna be my heading one, heading two. I will just keep like that. Okay. So just to have an example for us, I think 200 is too much. Maybe I can just press enter and delete a little bit, right? Just to have an example for us. Cool. And we are going to keep that also for the other ones. So I will pretty much copy this, right? So for some of them, probably we may need to resize, right? Like, oops, I think only for this. I want to resize. I will just adjust that here. And this is going to be the same here for the mobile, right? And that's the thing. The mobile, as we know, right? Like we don't have a lot of space, and we need to adjust that. So we'll just make like this a little bit bigger, so we can just see how the headings also they're gonna behave. So we have here, right? So we have this heading here. So let me just adjust. I'm not using auto layout for now, just to give you guys an example how this everything is going to work now. Okay. So we have all these different text, and we want to make sure that they are going to be changing based on the resolution, right? So if you see for mobile, it's already not very good, right? So I think this is going to be too big. So if I want to go here and start thinking, right, like a probably 72 is not going to be a good size for mobile, right? And I want to change for maybe 56, right? So you don't see any change for now, right? Because we created the molds, but we didn't assign it the molds for each one of the boards that we have. So what we are going to do is making sure that this desktop, if you go to layers, this is going to be using the typography for desktop. If I'm here, I want to make sure that this is using the typography for tablet, and this one is using the typography for mobile, and now it's going to change automatically for us. You see? So now means that everything that we see here, it's controlled by this table, right? So I will just expand. So maybe on mobile, that's the thing. I don't want to use this letter spacing. I want to use 0, right? Letter spacing, but we can keep that. Or maybe you want to decide that actually, Juno, we need to have different letter spacing because this is not enough for us. Maybe we need to have like a 4 and 4, and maybe we need to have 8 and 8, right? Because this is going to create more flexibility for the line spacing. So means that on tablet, right? Like because I don't want to have 0 because otherwise it's going to break the consistency of the design. So you want to have like a 4, right? You have a little bit, and this maybe you want to reduce for 8, right? So you have like a very similar look and feel, but they're resizing based on what we have. Okay, good. So for the other ones as well, we can start editing, right? Like because heading 2 also, it doesn't look like good on these. So we start with 56, maybe this should be 48, and also the line, the letter spacing should be 4, right? And the same goes here, right? Like because now it's using the same size, could be the same size, nothing wrong on that, but maybe you want to reduce, right? Like this one, maybe the heading one also you want to reduce a little bit, right? So this is going to be 64, this is 60, and you need to, of course, adjust the line height for them as well. Okay. So that being said, let me just adjust also the heading 3 for mobile. So this is gonna be probably like a 42, and we want to have this as 40, no, 42, 48, and this is gonna be 4, right? So you have like all this spacing working, but you see like the readability is not very good, right? Like so, I think if you go to the body, the line height for them is 20. Maybe it should be a little bit bigger, right? Like the line height. You see, so it's gonna make like more readable the text for people, right? And that's the same thing that we can go and do here, right? Like maybe gonna be the same, right? And for mobile, 20 maybe like it's gonna be too big. You think, okay, so maybe we should go instead of 20 a size maybe 16, right? Because at least like the text is gonna be a little bit longer each line, right? But you want to have space, you still have more space to read. So 24 maybe is going to be the better size for us to make more readable the text for mobile. Okay. And here the paragraph spacing could be 24 or could be smaller, right? Because since it's 16, maybe 20 is going to be good enough as a space, right? Because it was uh, 24, right? Like you can just adjust the way that you think is going to be good, right? 20. Okay. So now that's a good thing, right? Because whenever you have like your project, all this setup is going to help you guys to control any settings that you want to apply for everything, sizing, family, whatever. So let's say that we don't want to use Playfair, right? Like, so someone comes to you, oops, and say, let me find another font here, right? Like, let me just find which one, Racing Sense, right? Like this one was interesting. Racing Racing Sense one. Okay, maybe someone asks you to all the headings supposed to use Racing Sense one. Okay, you can just come here on the family, and this is the Racing Sense one, and you press enter, and pretty much they supposed to update. Why this doesn't update? Maybe I copy something wrong, or they don't wanna. Let me see. No, it's linked. That's weird. Uh, yeah, Racing Sense one. You see, it's a bug. Now it's updated. You see, like sometimes this could happen. You see, because it's pointing correctly, right? Like for the font heading two. You see, wow, that's weird. Let me see. I point here, but if I point back here, yeah, it's a bug. Anyways, like sometimes this can happen. So if you just point to another family, but you comes to the heading tree, right? So those bugs probably they're gonna fix, right? Of course, because nobody's gonna go and edit manually everything. But once you have all those things correct, you can just pretty much go here and change the title, right? The font that you want to use, and this will reflect on everything. So let me do another test here. Let me change to Lotto. So Lotto, once I do that, you see like that's weird. There's like a something on the bug on their side that is not updating correctly, right? Like because you see that it's Lotto here already, but it's not changing to Lotto automatically. But it's a bug because I was using that and they update that because this happened in one of the projects that I was working that happened exactly that. They asked me to change all the fonts, and because was linked to the variables, it was way easier to do that than coming one by one to edit. But pretty much like I think is a bug, but you can just do that. Okay, so let me see some questions here. Click on the properties by local variable to the right. Okay, under local styles. Yeah, so under here, right, under local variables, here you mean here? Yeah, so maybe like a here, if we just change that, maybe it's gonna update. We can test. If I just change this for, I don't know, let me just put Roboto. You see, like it doesn't change to Roboto everything. I don't know why. Let me just change this and change to title. Yeah, here updated automatically everything, right? So if I go here for the heading two, right, that didn't update it, but if I just change here and change back, is going to the Roboto font, right? So there's a small bug on that. But anyways, the way that it is, at least helps you to like having one single place that you can have the information and you can update everything, right? So that's pretty weird. You see, like because if I just come back, I just switch here, they're like loading the correct font. Okay, good. So that's it for this workshop. The idea was just to share a little bit the process, the way that you can do things on your side using variables and using also textiles and creating all this responsive size automatically. So there's a lot of things that you can implement using all this like a new tools from Figma. and I hope you guys enjoy doing that. So Gary said, okay, no, under local styles. Okay, local styles, you mean here? Let me see. You mean here on the local styles? Here? And just changing here, you mean? Yeah, I think this is the first thing that I did on the update. But that's the thing, like you still need to do one by one. But I think local styles here. Here's the local styles, right? Yeah, so under here. So under local styles is only that, the text styles. But you can show me later. Feel free to send me like a video or something, a screenshot, so I can just check it out later. Okay, Gary? Good. So that's all. So let me just type my email here. So if you guys want an email and want to join the group, like to organize the events, the future events, will be great. So I just type it my email here. I can just type here, I think, also, because it's going to be larger. If you want to save, this is my email. Okay, so you guys can send me messages and we can keep talking about the future events. Okay. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to send me by email as well. I hope you everybody enjoy this workshop and just expand a little bit your knowledge about using Figma. Uh, Also, I'm always learning, so that's the thing. Like everything that I'm sharing with you guys is because also I'm trying to apply in different projects and trying to do by myself. But that's the idea. Let's try to like help each other. I think this is the way that we can like learn more and more together, right? And if you have any new topic that you wanna like approach for the future events, also feel free to just to suggest, okay, to me, like hey Juno, it would be cool if we could learn about this or that. I will be happy to show you guys. But also, I want to have more speakers for the future events. Okay, I'm just doing by myself because if I cannot organize or find everybody like that that can join, I I have this commitment to myself that I will do that by myself just to make sure that everybody is learning and we are building our community here in Atlanta. Okay, cool. All right. So, everybody, thank you very much and have a good night. Okay.